Good. That's good. And it seems like with what you do, a lot of it is keeping in contact with people, that you've worked with before.
I've read a lot of books about networking and how to, which is really good. And I would encourage people to have that skill set. I mean, there's some mundane things that people talk about all the time, but I think it's really important. And one takeaways from the networking books I've read is you need to have your spiel down. What do you do? And they call it the elevator pitch for a reason, because most people, they're not even, you talk to people, they're not even tuning in. So you got to get them tuned in. Hey, what do you do? Hey, I do technical recruitment in the video game business, retaining talent that makes products seen by millions. Oh.
Yeah.
And you want
more. You're like,
you
okay,
want the
great.
people. You want the people to say, "Oh," so that you can tell them more.
Right. Because you can you can judge it based off of if you say your elevator pitch and they're just not interested. You're like, okay, well, you see the game last night. They don't want to talk about work. So
yeah. Right.
So now you go to Crystal Dynamics, like you mentioned before. You met someone at the Sega Technical Institute when you were.
Crystal Dynamics was really interesting. I was like the 5th person there.
94. That's there was a Gecko game, right?
Yeah. In fact, Lyle Hall was the producer on that. And he went on to form Iron something Studios. What is it in LA?
Iron Forge.
No, not Iron Forge. Oh my God, Heavy Iron.
Heavy Iron. Okay.
Heavy Iron Studios.
I heard of that.
And yeah, it was a game called GEX, and it was a platform game with a gecko.
That was on Sega.
It was on Sega, and it's an interesting story because Mark Cerny went from Sega, and by the way, Crystal Dynamics was founded by two women, Madeline Canepa and Judy Lang. Both of them came from Sega. Madeline Canepa was one of like the first marketing person. Very dynamic person, kind of person that walks into a room and everybody just says, where do we go? Yeah, I'll follow you anywhere,
Yeah, and Crystal Dynamics had a bunch of story-driven video games that were just breaking all the barriers and breaking all the walls down.
And our president was Strauss Zelnick, who is now the CEO of Take-Two Interactive, which is like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Geronimo Barrera, which I brought in as a QA guy, is the guy that came up with Grand Theft Auto. I mean, I'll never forget. I tell this story a lot. So we had an arcade in the back area where I sat with the QA team, and there was an arcade called Taxi Driver. You would just pick up people and drive them around in a taxi.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. They had an arcade shell of that when you go.
And right next to it was Street Fighter. And Geronimo used to say, somebody ought to be combining these two games, man. This is too good.
That's awesome.
And now he's like,
That's pretty cool.
Grand Theft Auto guy, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he was like 20 years old. Now he's like, I don't know, 50-year-old guy with a long beard. And, he's like the guy that did
Total Gamer.
Grand Theft Auto, But there's a lot of people like that.
That's cool.
And Crystal Dynamics was formed because 3DO was coming out. So it was going to be the first 3D game.
3DO was more about doing video cinematics, like live action stuff. And they had those huge discs at one point. Yeah, I remember that. It didn't... I think they were taking a bet on media.
It didn't take off the way everybody expected it to.
Exactly. It didn't do well.
But Crystal placed his bet on 3DO.
Yeah.
And, the name Crystal Dynamics, Madeline was like, whiteboarding. And whiteboarding is like, hey, I keep telling people when I give ideas to people, whiteboarding is all about, you're not supposed to say, that's a dumb idea, Jim. You're supposed to just throw the ideas on the wall.
Put anything up there.
Right, anything. And then later on you might discuss it. But at the time of the moment, you don't go, Edward, where'd you get that? That's dumb.
Yeah.
None of
brainstorming.
That. Brainstorming. Thank you. So they were brainstorming. She wanted something, 2 words. One word would be something beautiful and precious, and the other would be some kind of verb that would action. And so Crystal Dynamics, there you go.
That's
and
awesome.
Also CD.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. And everything's on a CD.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's how they came up with that.